Yo, 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 what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. And today, I'm coming at you guys with an update for my Monarch list. Now, I've been toying around with Monarchs for some years now, and every time I think that I've found the build that suits me and it's for me, I end up finding another build that I like more, and I test it. And for this one in particular, I like this one because it's explosive, which is how I prefer to play Monarchs. I prefer to play him more explosive than helmet mode, but it also still has the same kind of control elements that you need for a Monarch deck to be semi-competitive. In addition to that, it has this really cool hand control, which is basically, it's the way that I'm playing my Monarchs now, where I decided that hand control for me was the most viable way to play the deck, because even though the domain lock is powerful, I wanted to do domain lock, but I also wanted to have information and knowledge of what exactly I'm playing so that I know how impactful my domain is. And I also know what I need to search off of my tenacity and my pantheism so I can set up my board properly and adequately enough so that I know whether I'm going to win or lose, basically. Because you also have the ability to hit another card out of your opponent's hand via escalation on your opponent's turn. So you can really do like a lot of damage. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hop into the list. I'll explain my card choices, but also in the middle of the profile, I will go ahead and explain to you guys how you do the hand control and how you can set it up. So let's go ahead and start off with our vassals. We have 3 copies of Idea, the Heavenly Squire. She is just the best normal summon of the deck. She gets you really far ahead. And after turn 1, being able to just loop her with Eidos like a couple more times really helps you to maintain your resources adequately. But also, it applies a high level of pressure because you're not only getting those 2 free monsters out on the field, but you're getting an extra tribute summon before you even committed to your normal summon. So now you can normal a Monarch, and then you can tribute it again because of Eidos' effect. So you can get out 2 different threats, which is just nuts for me. And even though Pantheism's at 1, she's one of the reasons why. It doesn't even matter that the card's at 1 because you actually just banish it with this effect, and then you send her to the grave with any way you need, even if it's just tributing her, and you end up getting your Pantheism back, and Pantheism's effect to draw is not once returned, so you can actually set up really nice turn 1. She's just the star. Like, she's incredible. And then right next to her, we're going to have 3 copies of Eidos. Now, Eidos, for me, he actually is like the second best normal summon as well. There are some times when you can actually do your tribute summons without relying on the vassals, but these are your ideal cards, which is why I actually play 5 of her in the form of these 3 plus a 1-for-1 and a reinforcement in the army, because it's really imperative to see her. Like, if you open 1-for-1 in this deck, it's godly. But yeah, Eidos is nuts. Like, his graveyard effect is arguably better than his effect on summon, and the reason being is because you're getting him and her again, but you're not committing to a normal summon, which is just incredible. So yeah, I love this card a lot. You can grind really long with your vassals if you play them right. And then an additional target for Eidos, which actually really helps, is Mithra. Mithra, I'm actually going to bump it to 2 because this card is actually nuts, especially in the Sky Striker matchup. In particular, if you happen to be combating Sky Strikers, when you have Mithra, there's a really cool interaction where you just reveal Mithra, give them a token, you turn off their Widow Anchors, and then what you do is you end up going for a Grand Mark, and then you pop their Widow Anchors with him, and they can't respond because they have a token, and it's so good. Like, this list is so different from any of my other Monarch decks that I've done before. And in fact, I think it's really unique because it's an approach on Monarchs that I haven't seen anyone attempt to do. Like, in general, like, I tried to look it up on YouTube, and I tried to look it up on like Pojo and stuff like that, and I didn't find anything even near close to it, like, at all. But yeah, I think Mithra is correct. It's not just for the extra target for the Eidos, but it's also for the simple fact that, in a way, Mithra is like another way to have Eidos without having Eidos in a sense. Because you could just reveal Mithra, special summon her because of her effect. You tribute her for any of your other guys. Like, for example, let's say you tribute her for like a regular sized Monarch, or let's say you have Domain and you make Erebus a level 6. So you can go Erebus and then use his effect, hit a card out of your opponent's hand, and then because you got an extra tribute summon, you'll tribute the Erebus for Mega Thessalos. If you had like Return to Search Room and then you hit another card out of your opponent's hand and you go Escalation for Baby Thessalos, like, it's nuts. So I think Mithra is correct, and it's so good that I actually am supposed to be playing two, but like right now I only have one. And next up, for another supporting engine, I play 3 Danger Dogmans. Now this replaces my my Mythical Beast engine that I was playing before. I've tried a lot of different things, but the only sucky thing with the Mythical Beast engine was every time I opened it, I had to pick between it and Domain of the Monarchs because every time you resolved your service, it went to the extra deck. And so it got kind of difficult, and I was relying more on Vanity's Fiend in that deck than I was Domain, because like a lot of the times when I open the engine, like the Mythical Beast engine, it will give me the extra monster, the extra extender that I need so I can commit more to my board, but it would take away the best aspect of my Domain. So I was like trying to turbo out Vanity's Fiend at that point. So Dogman replaces that engine, but it acts better because it has more synergy. It gives you the ability to draw through your deck for better cards, and it has the statistics that allow it to be searched from your return. So when you commit for your first normal summon, if you got an additional tribute, like for example, if it was like an Eidos play from grave, like banish him and then special idea from deck, and then go off like that, basically you can go for your first tribute summon and you'll still get the extra one off Eidos. And you can use your return to search this guy out if you didn't have him. Then you reveal him, special him, and you draw. And then you contribute him for your other tribute summon. So he really helps you. And I'm also going second. Getting the extra bodies on field so that you can go for the OTK is really clutch. And like when you miss him and you can shrink your opponent's monsters, that's actually really relevant because your field spell allows you to get the extra increment of 800. So that's 18 extra 100 damage, like on top of whatever you're attacking over. Which, excuse me, it really helps. So I like the interaction that Dogman has in his deck, and I definitely wouldn't like not play him. He's really good. You don't want to play any other dangers because it's not a danger Monarch deck. You're just playing Dogman because he really fits the criteria of like kind of like a Mithra / the Mythical Beast engine, which I was simply playing because I just needed extra bodies on field. Like the vassals are amazing, but you don't always draw the vassals. Like they're not your entire deck, so you need other ways to commit when you don't have access to your vassals, if that does make sense to you whatsoever. So these are all your free summon guys that get you to your tribute summons. Next up, we're going to go into the actual Monarchs themselves. We're going to start off with 3 copies of Erebus. Now, this card is actually really nuts, you guys. Like, he's a really, really powerful card. His effect does not target and it does not destroy, and he can just hit whatever he wants. Like wherever he wants to. He's a really, really powerful turn 1 play. Suffice to say that he's part of the hand control because this is Monarch hand control. And the idea and the concept is you're trying to resolve both Erebus and also both either Baby Thessalos or Mega Thessalos in the same turn. And you're doing that via Return of the Monarchs and other cards like that. And on your opponent's turn, you're trying to use your Escalation, which is right here. And you're trying to hit that other card from your opponent's hand with the other Monarch, being like Thessalos, whichever Thessalos didn't use, because you play both the little one and the big one. And that's ripping 3 cards from your opponent's hand. And it's not by random for the Thessaloses because you get to pick. So it's like you know exactly whether they have the out or not. So it makes your domain lock a lot more powerful because now they're trying to break your board with less resources. And you're still locking them from the extra deck. And at the same time, you have all these other resources in the form of your Eidos play and your Prime Monarch, which floats and gives you additional field presence, which protects you from getting OTK'd. So you could just really set up really strong. And the main reason why is because of Erebus. He dumps your Prime Monarch. So even if you didn't open it with an extender like Dogman or Mithra, you can still just dump Prime Monarch and then another spell, and then you could banish Prime Special it. And if you got like an additional tribute that turn, then you could commit to your Thessalos, which is ideal. So yeah, triple Erebus is just insane. And once he gets to the grave, you really start snowballing out of control because you're able to add back any of your one of Monarchs, like all the ones that I play at 1, like which is every Monarch that's not Erebus I play at 1. You just keep adding them from the grave to hand, and once you loop your Pantheism, like you get so much resources. You add Pantheism back off Idea, pitch Pantheism for his effect, grab back your Aether, and then banish out Pantheism, reveal, grab some more resources. Like, just, it's so good. Like, this card is, like, the best. He really is, especially because Aether is only at 1. And Aether's a little bit more aggressive, but I like the Erebus. He allows you to have that control that you need, but also he can be spot removal whenever you need him to be, getting over cards that can be destroyed or can be targeted. And I mainly use him when I'm going first to just rip cards out of my opponent's hand. You're trying to like play like as if you had a Gunblar, but you don't have an extra deck. Next up, we have the 1 copy of Aether. Now, Aether is really incredible. Now, one interaction that comes up a lot of with Aether is if you can't search adequately enough off of your return, what you'll do off of Aether is you'll special the missing combo piece that you need, being either him or him, whichever one you didn't see, and it gets bounced to your hand during the end phase, so that way you can use Escalation to use this to tribute over her or another one of your guys, and then you can hit another card in your opponent's hand, which that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to go hand control. And if you're not hand controlling, you're like Vanity's Fiend Turbo, or you're just really domain lock. So your win conditions in this deck are either domain lock, Vanity's Fiend lockdown, or the hand control. But also keep in mind that Monarchs can really just OTK out of nowhere, and you just get a lot of like aggressive plays that you can make. And next up, we have 1 copy of Mega Caius. Now, this is another card that allows you to play going second really well. And its effect to burn in time is really clutch. And the fact that it can hit all cards of the same copy, like with the same name, it's the nuts. Like this card is just so powerful. Like you can't sleep on him. Like I'll loop him off of Erebus a couple times if I really just need that pressure, because he's a really strong pressure card. And then next up, another Mega Monarch that I regret not playing in the past is actually Zaborg. Now Zaborg, the thing with this deck, I guess the most important thing that I need to mention is that it's all about information when you're playing this particular list of Monarchs that I have. It's all about information. You want to know exactly what kind of deck you're playing and how your most impactful plays can even yield in a disposition to your opponent. Because if it's not detrimental to your opponent and you're not able to stop them from doing what they want to do, then, you know, everything that you're doing it's for naught. You know, it's all in vain if you can't stop them from going off. So information is really crucial, and that's what Zaborg is really good for. You resolve Zaborg, you just really want to know what's in your opponent's extra deck so that you basically know what kind of deck that you're playing against, and you also know how the hand loop would affect them, because sometimes you can just guess exactly what's in their main deck based off their extra deck, and it's very much so true. So yeah, Zaborg is amazing. And because you're attributing both Eidos and Idea, you actually get to look at your opponent's extra deck and pick the cards that you send. And because you play no extra deck, you actually can still resolve Zaborg, which is just nuts. Like, it's really, really cool. Alright. And then we also play 1 copy of Grandmark. Now, Grandmark is really here because Sky Strikers is so prevalent, and because the interaction that this card has with Mithra is so powerful, that's why I really want to play 2 to 3 Mithras. Mithra is really good going second against Sky Strikers, and Sky Strikers can really hurt this deck a lot. Like, Widow Anchor is no joke, but it's also the fact that they can afterburner a Monarch and then pop your domain after that. Like, it really, really sucks. So, like, when you're able to just give them that token with Mithra and then summon this guy, because this guy is really here because the Sky Striker matchup is just so prevalent. And I wanted to make you guys a domain, like a Monarch list that is actually good. Like, not just like a, oh, cute for fun deck. Like this, I want it to be competitive. So I think that this card's correct to play, because also outside of the Sky Striker matchup, there are other decks that play back rows that are actually really, really strong. And it really does help. He targets 2 sets, so it doesn't have to be back rows. It could be monsters. And if you ever tribute it to Earth, which doesn't come up in this list, you just draw a card. But I think he's correct to play. And then next up for the Thessaloses, I have the Mega and then the Baby Thessalos. Now, these cards are really important to me. And while I like this card's really, really good, I like them a lot. And like, arguably, you could summon one and then loop another one off of Aether. Like, I prefer to play the different names. And also the level 6, because sometimes you don't have enough resources to do a big tribute, because the Mega Monarchs, you either tribute 2 monsters or you tribute 1 tribute summoned monster to do so. And so the idea, like I was saying, is you're trying to hit 1 off of Erebus and in the same turn 1 off of Thessalos. And arguably you want to go Thessalos first so you know what you're playing, but sometimes you can't do that because a lot of the times Erebus enables you to get out the other Thessalos, because when you get the extra tribute that you need, through all the draw power and all the extenders that you play, you basically just need the extra bodies on field to tribute. Because you don't want to, arguably, you don't want to tribute your Erebus for the Thessalos. You want to have both of them on the field so you still have that pressure and you're able to OTK next turn. So that's why you play the Thessalos. And like I was saying, you're trying to go for Erebus and then hit him with the Thessalos. And then you escalation this guy if you didn't already have him. And also, don't forget that these win games in time. Like, if I'm in my main phase and my opponent is, like, you know, trying to stop me from going off, but, like, they call time on my turn, I can just resolve any one of these and then I'll win. Like, it's really, really strong. All right, and then next up, we're playing 2 copies of Vanity's Fiend. It would be 3, but I still think that Kuraz is correct to play. Even though a lot of the times when I'm resolving my Erebus, my Aether, I am using her to actually get one of these guys, which is the missing pieces to the hand control that you need. But Kuraz is just too good to not play, because this card, it really does get you so far ahead. Like, if you can resolve Aether for Kuraz and you still play a ton of draw power in this deck, like, you need it thin through your deck, because, like, you need to get your return, you need to get access to your return and your escalation in the same turn, and you need to get an extra tribute summon. So, like, that's a lot of work that you need to do. So, like, Kuraz helps you to get there. And that's going to conclude the monster lineup. I don't think that I would even change anything. I mean, you do play, like, 8 level 8s, I think. So, you can honestly just play traded, and this is not going to hurt you. For our spells, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Domain of the Monarchs. Now, Domain is insane. It really is. And it wins you your Thunder Dragon matchup, which this deck's Thunder Dragon matchup isn't that bad because your Searchers, like, they do help you, but in the long run, like, as long as you open with the big guy and a way to get him out, you can tank with Thunder Dragons. So it's not really that bad playing against Thunder Dragons. But going first, when you open Domain, you basically beat them. Because, like, I don't recall any Thunder Dragon players main decking Twin Twisters. And if they don't main deck Twin Twisters, they're not getting rid of this because they can't go into Nightmare Phoenix to pop it. So you actually just win against Thunder Dragons. And then for Sky Strikers, it's a different story because they main deck Twin Twisters and they main deck Afterburners and, you know, other cards like that can out it. But this card is just so high ceiling this format. It's so powerful. It's really strong against the best decks. Like, all the meta decks need their extra deck, especially like Dark Warriors and stuff like that. Like, I don't even think they main deck Twin Twisters. So, like, you just win if you open this against those decks in game 1s only. Because game 2 and 3, a smart player would side in Twin Twisters specifically for the Domain. It helps you to beat over cards, apply more pressure. It reduces the levels of your guys. It's just a really good field spell. And next up, we're playing 3 Return, which is so pivotal for the hand control that you're trying to do because the Thessalos is at 1. And you can cut, like, if you want it to be more dedicated to how I want to play, you can cut cards like Zaborg and Mega Caius and the Earth Mega Monarch, the Grand Mark, and you can just do triple Mega Thessalos and then another regular Thessalos just so that you can see them faster so you don't rely on return. But you also have to keep in mind that you have to go second sometimes, and you don't want your deck to be dedicated to just one thing in a linear fashion. You want multiple win conditions. So, like, you're relying on return basically to search out your other cards that you need, like your other Thessaloses, so that you can finish and keep the hand control. Because with Erebus, once you get him in rotation, Erebus allows you to keep applying the hand control through the whole game, because you're continuing to add them from grave to hand and then tribute summon them again and then grip more cards out of your opponent's hand. So it makes it so difficult for any deck to grind, because it doesn't matter how good a deck is. Every deck needs their cards to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you know, unless you're playing like Danger, and at that case you use Erebus to shuffle their cards so that they don't get discarded. Return is just the nuts, you guys. And then we have 3 copies of Tenacity. Now, Tenacity is just always live. Like, it's just always live. I've never really drawn it in a hand where I couldn't just resolve it. But most of the time, I don't even search Pantheism anymore. Like, I'm trying not to get greedy. Like, I'm really trying to make sure that I can get the actual cards that I need. Like, Pantheism will draw, but the cards that I'm trying to get access to are, like, these. Like, I need Escalation and Return. And, like, hopefully I end up opening with Erupt too. Like, Because like once you have the hand control and you have domain and erupt, like you should. There's no logical reason why you should lose that duel because you're just so far ahead. Like your opponent's playing with 3 less cards, they can't use their extra deck, and then all their monsters, unless they're tribute summoned, don't even get to resolve their effects. It's like it's just you're so far ahead, it's crazy. Yeah, triple tenacity. Next up, 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Now for Allure, this list, even though in the past I haven't always played Allure because I just didn't feel comfortable enough playing it without a decent amount of targets. You have the Erebus's, the Vanity's Fiends, and that's 5. You have Mega Caius, that makes 6. You have the 3 Idols, that makes 9, and you have the 3 Dogmen, so that makes 12 targets. Now, if Blue Eyes play 3 trade-ins and they only have 8 targets, you could easily play 3 Allures with 12 targets. And next up, for another good spell, we play 2 copies of Foolish Barrel Goods. Now, this is one of the main reasons why it's okay if I don't search Pantheism off of Tenacity, because what I end up doing is just dumping the Pantheism, and then I'll resolve its effect, and then I'll add it off of Idea, and then I'll use it to draw 2 so I can dig deeper into my deck, so I can get my setup with my Escalation and other cards like that. So it's really good, but like I just didn't feel like I needed 3 of it, because it's not about it being hard once per turn, but it's the fact that outside of Pantheism and Prime Monarch, there's really no good cards to send. And whenever you're resolving Erebus, you're already sending the 2 best targets off of it. So like if you resolve an Erebus first, this is like a dead card, and it really doesn't help outside of just that. And you could arguably play Metaphors Fusions, but I didn't want to add bricks just to make like a situational play possibly something that could yield a better outcome. And then we have 1 Pantheism. Even though this card isn't at 3, this deck is still insane because Pantheism is still at 1. Like it still exists, and like you just gotta manage your resources right. You have to loop this with your ideas and just constantly recycle it. Then we have 1 Rhoda, 1 for 1. These are your extra copies of ideas, so you play 5. And then the God card, 1 copy of Stormforth. Stormforth is nuts, especially with Escalation. Like in tandem with Escalation, if you get that opening, you can rip a card of your opponent's hand after you tributed their monster to do it. So that's pretty nuts. All right. No Pot of Desires. You can't really do that in this particular list, because other than like Erebus, all your other Monarchs are not at 3. So you're just like, there's too high of a risk of banishing them, and they're way too important. Like all of them are, like especially my 1 Aether. Like come on now, I wouldn't banish her. Next up for our traps, we play 3 copies of the Monarchs Erupt. Now this card, I had to put this in because originally I was playing Majesty's Fiend Turbo. I was playing Majesty's Fiend, Vanity's Fiend Turbo. And Majesty's Fiend was searchable through return, and it had the Monarch stats, so I could add it back off of Erebus. And Majesty's Fiend is better than this because it stops all monster effects, where this only stops on field effects. And if your opponent happens to have tribute summon monsters, they're not affected by this. But since I couldn't fit Majesty's Fiend and I couldn't make room for it, and also because I'm actually trying to resolve my effects at like all the time, like I just felt that Erupt will be better because it's a one-sided like negation that doesn't affect me and it doesn't apply to me, but it still gives me that extra control that I need, because like you're really trying to play heavy control with this deck, but also keep in mind that Monarchs are really aggressive too, so like you're not playing Protect the Castle necessarily, you're just stunning your opponent for 1 turn and killing them on the follow-up, and that's how it works. And then we have 2 copies of the Prime Monarch. You don't really need 3 like at all, and whenever you're playing a list where you need a cut card, this is a card that you can always cut, because you can actually just recycle itself with the other copy. And then 1 copy of Escalation. Suffice it to say that I considered playing more of it because your setup is like bound to like you need this for the setup, but also at the same time, like I haven't really ran into consistency issues of not seeing it throughout the duration of the combo. So like I really think it works. Like there was one time like I knew that I wouldn't be able to like get this guaranteed. So what I ended up doing was because I already resolved Tenacity. I think I resolved Tenacity, but I ended up dumping it off of Erebus, and then I banished it to summon the Prime Monarch. And then when I used my Ideas effect, I ended up grabbing this from the banish zone and added it to my hand. So I basically searched it without even searching it, because I dumped it off Erebus's effect to rip a card out my opponent's hand. and then I dumped this and this. Then I banished this to summon this from grave, and then when I used my ideas effect, I just added this to hand. And I had to use tenacity on domain. That's what it was. I used tenacity on domain. So yeah, like it just, I've never really had issues of not seeing it. Like I play this deck really, really smart, and like I haven't ran into those kind of issues yet. But I recommend, like, if you run into those issues of not seeing escalation, play more of it, because for this, if you want to like net deck me or whatever, for this list to work, escalation is super important, like super duper important. Like you need it for 3 cards. You can only hit 2 without escalation, but that 3rd card really makes a difference. And that's the list, you guys. If you want a side deck for it, like I can give you some suggestions and stuff like that, but this is not my my tournament deck. I just really wanted to do this for the Monarch fans out there that like love Monarchs and are trying to make them work. This is a great way to make them work. And also, like, whenever I do a profile, I want it to be good enough. You know, I don't want it to just be like, I understand that Monarchs are rogue and they're not supposed to be competitive, quote, quote. But I still wanted them to be good enough for that. Somebody who wanted to play this in a competitive tier 2 event, you know, or anything of that caliber of equivalent, would still stand a really fair chance in the playing field, because of how this list operates and how it really functions well against every single deck. Now, it does have, you know, the weaknesses that any Monarch deck would have, but you can easily alleviate for those just by taking cards out of your main deck and implementing more tech cards to support and backbone, you know, basically support the backbone of the deck and basically circumvent for the weaknesses. But I really appreciate you guys for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk about cardboard. I really appreciate it a lot. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You folks have a beautiful day, all right? And stay positive. Peace.